Mr. Petrucci, Dr. Lorinda Chisholm just has an announcement very quickly.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to take the moment to introduce a couple of people that are joining us for the charter school hearings. We have Brooke Foster and Yana Komichuk. I wanted to introduce them as our volunteer interpreters. They are both senior interpreting students through the Department of American Sign Language and Interpreter Education at RIT. And so they'll be participating as part of their required hours. So this is a nice opportunity for us to partner with some of our local schools and support our students and where they may possibly be in terms of providing services for our students with disabilities.
Thank you for that. You know, the difficult part is going to be, Lorinda, is that there's only a certain number of squares on the screen. Right. So that's going to be hard, unfortunately, because unless they're speaking, they won't be shown.
Right.
Excuse me, hello, this is Yana. I'm the student interpreter. That is a difficulty because we are trying to access the video camera, but it's not giving us permission from the streaming site.
Thank you for that, and I'm not sure that's going to be a problem. Because I'm not sure how to bring everyone on the screen. I don't know that we're able to do that.
All right, I see Brooke is here.
Yes, we are logged in through my account, but it's not letting us get access to the camera. We can see everybody, but we're not on recording.
Do you have, is your camera blocked out or is just not?
I try to click on video, turn camera on, and it says that there's no access for me to turn it on.
I am going to.
Hi guys. For the person who can't get their camera to work, you need to go into your settings and allow it. It's telling you exactly what the problem is, but it's something specific to the device that you're using.
We already did try that, but we'll review it again. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you're able to get on. I really do. If I can ask everyone to please mute, because we can hear all the rustling and paper moving in the background. If you have your microphone on, we can't hear that. So what we're going to do is we will get started because we do have 2 presentations tonight. So I will turn it over to our Executive Affairs Vice President, Mr. Lou Petrucci.
Thank you, Dr. Jaren Hall-Brown. At this point, we're going to hear from Buffalo Commons Charter School. I know they've prepared a nice presentation for us. So I will let them make the presentation and then we will ask some questions at the end. So I ask all those that are in attendance virtually to please hold your questions to the end. If you have something that's really urgent that you think is topical and needs to be addressed at that particular moment, if you could just raise your hand or you can use the chat feature on this as well. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Buffalo Commons to begin the presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much to everybody for being here today, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Daniel Brink Washington. I'm the proposed executive director of Buffalo Commons Charter School. I live in Buffalo with my wife and 2 young children. And again, just thanks for giving us the chance to tell you about this school today. We look forward to taking your questions at the end. And I'd love for my co-presenter, Sherry Rodman. Do you want to introduce yourself, Sherry, and kick us off?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Sherry Rodman, the proposed board chair for Buffalo Commons. Quick history about myself. I have about 15 years of experience in education, originally in the classroom and more recently working for a number of different nonprofits, kind of split between the back-end operations side of the house and front end, mostly focused on professional development and more recently consulting for school districts and state departments of education. And I've been working with Danny and our team to design Buffalo Commons for about 4 or 5 years now. Today, we're really excited to present the plan for Buffalo Commons to you all, hear from a couple of the Buffalo Commons community members, and answer questions that you have about the school. Here you have a quick overview of what we'll walk through this afternoon. We'll start by sharing the mission and vision of Buffalo Commons, share some logistics about the grade levels and size. Danny will review the school's key design elements, share some highlights from our outreach efforts and how we're thinking about student and teacher recruitment and retention. We'll hear briefly from a couple of Buffalo Commons supporters, and I'll wrap up by sharing some finance data, our timeline, and opportunities we see for collaboration with the district and other schools in the city. So I think you guys should be able to see this, although the font's a little bit small on the screen. So I'm just going to read these to you. Here you can see the mission and vision for Buffalo Commons. So our mission is that Buffalo Commons is an academically rigorous, creative, and collaborative K-8 learning community that uses research-based teaching practices and innovative programming to close the opportunity gap and prepare a diverse student body and lead successful lives which strengthen their communities. And then our vision is really for Buffalo Commons to be a learning community where student growth results disrupt predictable norms of the past based on race, income, home language, and ability. The Buffalo Commons team will join with educators from across the city, state, and country in a relentless and collaborative pursuit of the best practices for excellence and equity for students of all backgrounds. We really envision a community of graduates that have the knowledge and skills required for success in future educational endeavors, as well as their life beyond school, a strong sense of values, identity, and purpose, and valuable experience working across lines of difference to unleash the potential within individuals and communities to solve some of our world's most pressing challenges. On the next slide, Danny, if you want to advance to the next slide. Back up, there we go. Okay, this chart provides an overview of our anticipated enrollment and growth patterns. So as you can see, we're hoping to open next school year with 50 kindergartners and 50 first graders. And then each of the following years will take in 50 new kindergartners. We've designed our enrollment pattern like this to be minimally disruptive to the district. So there's only 1 year where we're filling first grade seats, which should allow the district to more easily plan. This model also is good for our program and what we're trying to do, allowing us to reach students as early as possible in their K-12 career, and with hopes of supporting all students' achievement and really aiming to eliminate or narrow achievement or opportunity gaps that exist between different subgroups of students. This chart shows our target student population. Danny will talk more about our key design elements in a minute, but a spoiler is that one of them is a commitment to diversity. We plan to be a diverse by design or intentionally integrated school, and that's really core to who we are. We want to represent the diversity of Buffalo. As you can see, we anticipate no racial majority, and we also think about diversity when it comes to ability, home language, and economic status. Now I'll turn it back over to Danny, who will walk through our key design elements. Danny, I think you might be on mute.
Thanks, Sherry. Really quick, my background, I've been in public education for the last 15 years in both district schools in Brooklyn, in charter schools in Brooklyn, and also in Buffalo. Most recently, I have done work with the Diverse Charter School Coalition as a leadership fellow, and I'm really excited about the prospect of leading Buffalo Commons. Like Sherry said, there are some key program elements that really hold up and sustain the mission that she talked about. We'll talk about academic excellence today, diversity, equity, and inclusion, creative problem solving, and talent development. And I'm just going to walk you through those quickly, and then we'll talk a little bit about outreach. So in terms of academic excellence, Buffalo Commons believes that all students can excel academically, and that any gaps in achievement between subgroups can be eliminated through a synthesis of proven curriculum, effective instruction, and the use of data.
Excuse me, Daniel. Yeah, I don't want
Yes.
to interrupt you. I don't know if you're I don't know if you're too close to the microphone or not, but you sound very blurry over here.
I can step back a little bit. Is that any better?
It might be. Let's go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Just let me know if you can't understand. We're good? Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. Yeah, so for us, it boils down to three things: proven curriculum, effective instruction, and the use of data. And we believe that if we hold our entire community to high expectations around each of these things, not only will we be able to narrow gaps between students, but we'll also improve students' self-concepts and prepare them for successful futures. Real quick, not to get too far into the weeds, but we believe that proven curriculum means that we're offering things that are both demanding and accessible, and that both build content knowledge, but also build critical thinking skills. You can see on the slide that we're starting with some selected criteria, and then over time we'll tailor those to meet the needs of our actual student body. In terms of instruction, there's really four sort of key things, key resources that we're drawing on. And notably, we have a team teaching system. So every classroom has a team of teachers, either a general education teacher and an assistant teacher, or a general education teacher and a special education teacher, that are working in these shared practices that we think are both timeless and relevant. We draw heavily on Marzano's Classroom Instruction That Works, Antonetti's 17,000 Classroom Visits Can't Be Wrong, which is really about raising the thinking in classrooms. Because we know that we want a diverse student body, we are drawing heavily from Zaretta Hammond's Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain. And lastly, we know that the classroom culture that we provide is of utmost importance, and so we draw heavily on Get Better Faster. You know, this focus on classroom culture, high expectations, and culturally responsive techniques, we think is going to provide a set of shared values and a common vocabulary for teachers and leaders that make sure that our instruction is strong, that we have good differentiation, and that we're making sure to offer those chances for students to increase higher order thinking and also keep things relevant. Lastly, the use of data is really important. We have a comprehensive system that provides data at the student level, all kinds of different groups, all the way up through the school-based level. Our second program element, diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know, Buffalo is a city with stark lines of residential segregation. We see that both along the lines of race and class. And so we intentionally enroll a diverse body of students that cross all sorts of those lines, including socioeconomic lines, home language, background lines, ability, including those who need special education programs. And we do this because we know that a diverse student body provides ideas, backgrounds, and perspectives that enrich the lives of all students. You know, having said all of that, I think it certainly is no small task to get a diverse group of students together. But then, of course, there's this question of like, what do you do when you actually have them all there? And I think what we know the research says is that we need to provide a way that those students can share goals and see the common humanity in one another and work together across those lines of difference in meeting those goals. And so that's where value-driven school culture comes in, an explicit social emotional learning program, and partnering with families. You can see on the slide that we have 4 core values: respect, integrity, curiosity, and hard work. In terms of our social emotional learning program, we use Caring School Community as our foundational program. And there's a couple highlights from that program there on the slide. That includes a daily morning and afternoon meeting in a circle, weekly class meetings, weekly home connection activities, as well as cross-age buddy activities. So as we grow, we intend to pair students from different grades with each other to encourage relationships across not only individual grade levels, but throughout the school. And then lastly, partnering with families. We know how significant partnerships with families can be for student success. And we think of it in two ways. One is a commitment to visiting the home. We shall see what COVID allows, but we plan to do a home visit with every single family that enrolls. And then as they are welcomed into the community, there are ongoing methods for us to stay close with them. So I talked a little bit about this earlier, but creative problem solving is really that vehicle that we see for establishing those shared goals and giving students that come from all different backgrounds and have all different abilities the chance to really work together. And part of it is about increasing academics, but it also is about fostering this and developing critical thinking and the actual skills of creative problem solving, so that one, students can strengthen their communities. So thinking both about the school community, but also about communities where students live, our city, the communities that they enter into as they develop their interests. Also, we've thought about creative problem solving as being really key to a changing workforce and trying to map things against what we know colleges and employers are ultimately looking for in the 21st century. And lastly, Sherry touched on this a little bit, but we believe that students are entitled to a life of purpose and self-determination. And so creative problem solving, we think, allows a way for students to start to investigate passions, think about what are the needs in my community and in my world, and what are the skills that I have that I can bring to bear. In terms of implementation, like how do we do creative problem solving at Buffalo Commons? One is that we're integrating this into all of the curricula, but particularly our innovations and community studies curricula. So those are our science and social studies curricula, really center around this idea of authentic project-based learning that requires creative problem solving and working collaboratively. And to do that well, we'll also be teaching students explicit design thinking methods. I guess just like a side note on this, like more broadly, I think this is a great way of educating students, but there's also a large research base that shows that especially in diverse communities, when compared to traditional instruction, work like this can increase long-term retention of content, can certainly improve student achievement on high-stakes testing, but also really works that collaboration muscle. So those are all reasons that this is a core element for us. Lastly, we focus on talent development. By holding high expectations for adults in all roles at Buffalo Commons, asking them to consistently model our core values, and for us to invest in the ongoing development of teachers, staff. We believe that in doing that, we can create a high-performing culture that is focused on student achievement. And that's really important because we know that probably the single most or one of the most significant aspects of moving the needle for students is about pairing them with strong teachers year after year after year. And so our commitment to developing our talent needs to be there from the very beginning. We do that in a lot of ways. I'll highlight 3 of them here today. We have a summer institute that happens each year and has 2 sections. There's a new teacher orientation for anybody that's new to our community. So not necessarily just teachers that are new to the profession, but anybody that's new to Buffalo Commons will do our new teacher orientation, where we really set a foundation for how a Buffalo Commons classroom works. And then our Summer Institute, which is for everyone, new teachers and returning teachers. Throughout the year, we meet twice weekly in grade level teams. And we also provide individualized coaching for every teacher on a weekly basis and link that to feedback cycles as well. So those are our 4 core program elements. I want to talk a little bit about outreach and demand before having us hear from some folks in our community. I'll try to keep this brief. A lot of this is there. on the slide, but I think it's important to highlight the idea that we have really focused in terms of outreach on building a depth of engagement. So certainly, we want folks to know who we are, but we're really focused on building relationships over the long term with families, with local leaders. You can see this in the way that we have worked with those individual families, that we've worked with daycares and Head Starts, community-based organizations, faith-based organizations. We've done that through a variety of methods. So parent and educator focus groups, community leader meetings. We ran a community input survey that got hundreds of responses that we used to really influence the design of the school. We've had public meetings, electronic outreach. All of those things together brought us to understand some things that our community needs or wants. They want to have hope that there's a way forward in education for their student that combines excellence and a sense of belonging. They want to trust the school that they're working with to be exactly who they say they're going to be. They want, like I said, they want both academic excellence, but also they want attention paid to equity. So, is that excellence for everyone? And lastly, the sense of belonging. So does my child have to check any part of who they are at the door, right? And obviously parents don't want that. They want their children to be able to go and be their complete authentic selves. I think that you can see all of those needs really well reflected in our program design. And I think our outcomes sort of speak to that. So in terms of outcomes, we had on our community input survey, we had over 200 plus parents, which represented 92% of the folks that took that survey, of children that are of a relevant age that will either pursue Buffalo Commons or will recommend Buffalo Commons to families that can pursue it. In terms of our diversity, that being a real sort of core of who we are, we have, whenever possible, collected zip codes of interested parents, and the multitude of those zip codes and the way in which they're broken across zip codes really does reveal a diverse distribution of supportive families. We've collected dozens of letters of support from organizations, parents, and community members, and continue to do that. We've met with over 100 community leaders. We've got 8,000 folks have viewed the website, and we have built a mailing list of over 500 people. I'm going to turn it over because I could sort of go on in that way, but I think it would be powerful to hear just briefly from a couple members of our community. So I'm going to turn it over to Rachel and Cherish. And, we obviously don't have time to hear from all the other folks that would have liked to talk to you today. But I think Rachel and Cherish really give an accurate picture of why they're connected to Buffalo Commons. They've both been connected for a number of years now. And I think their voices will give you a sense of the deep relationships that Buffalo Commons develops with parents and community members. So Rachel, I will stop sharing my screen so that you can be seen and heard.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you to the board members and other members of the community for giving us time today to talk about Buffalo Commons. My name is Rachel Bierman. I'm a Buffalo resident and educator and the parent of 2 young children. I have also been connected to the Buffalo Commons Project. I'm here today to voice my support for Buffalo Commons. This team, as people have said, has been working together for the past 4 years to understand the needs of Buffalo's parents and families through public events, community gatherings, and individual discussions. The team has met with families across the city to ensure that Buffalo Commons is a school that the families of Buffalo want as an option for their children and their families. I'm here representing one of those families. I and families across the city believe strongly in Buffalo Commons' mission to bring together children from across our city to learn from and with each other in an environment that fosters strong academics, creative problem solving, and collaboration. I believe this school model and the leadership that's in place for Buffalo Commons will be an important addition to Buffalo's public schools. I'm excited to apply for my own children and have spoken to dozens of other parents who feel the same way. So thank you for taking time today to hear from us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. Cherish, did you want to say a few words as well?
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Cherish Davis, and I have 3 children, 2 that are already in school and 1 who I will be looking to enroll in school next year. I am also a business owner. I own my own daycare center. And so oftentimes I talk with a lot of families who, trust our opinion because we have had their children since they were 6 weeks old when it's time for them to transition into school. And they're curious to get recommendations on schools, and Buffalo Commons is definitely a school that I would recommend, not only for my own child but for the children that I serve in my program. Just the mission is just aligned with a lot of the things that we do as far as like building a relationship with the community. That's really important when it comes to educating people's children, is building that relationship between the home and the school. And I think that Buffalo Commons really hits the nail on the head when it comes to that partnership and collaboration with families. And so again, I just wanted to thank you for your time and hearing what we have to say about Buffalo Commons. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cherish. I know that we're running a little bit short on our allotted time. So I will go back to my screen, but I'll try to make sure that we keep the rest of our presentation brief. Give me just a second here. Is everybody looking at student teacher recruitment and retention? Okay, fantastic. So like I said, I'll keep it brief. I think suffice to say that there are 2 sort of core components when we think about both student and teacher recruitment as we move from outreach into actual students that will use the school, folks who will teach at the school. There's a real continuing commitment to data. So like we talked about with academic data for students, the same is true in everything that we do. In making a diverse community, it's something that we need to be monitoring the entire way. And so this commitment to tracking and analyzing data is in all of our recruitment and retention activities. Similarly, I would say that one of the things that's really important to us is building relationships and then using those relationships in terms of making this move from outreach to recruitment. So you can see in student recruitment that our first bullet underneath tracking and analyzing data is about leveraging community partners that we've built relationships with over the long term. In terms of teacher recruitment, our number 1 priority there is developing a pipeline that uses local resources and relationships that we've been building. I'll go ahead and move on, but I hope that slide gives you a sense of sort of what we're up to. Sherry, I'll kick it back over to you to talk a little bit about the fiscal impact of Buffalo Commons.
Yeah, thanks. So just a couple more things we want to share with you guys before we wrap up. And this is one of the things we were asked to share. One of the things we were asked to share with you was our finance data. And so this chart shows our fiscal impact at capacity on the district. I won't go through each row and column here, but I'll highlight a few things. First, this is the fiscal impact chart that we included in our application to SUNY. We are aware that a few things have changed since then, so the per pupil rate has decreased, and I believe that the district budget has increased. That said, the projected impact, so the column all the way on the right in green, is still in the right ballpark and shows the relatively small impact of Buffalo Commons on the district. The next slide shows a quick overview of our next year or so. SUNY will complete our application review process this fall. In the winter and spring, we hope to secure and ready a facility. We'll officially hire our initial employees, begin contracting with vendors, and focus a lot on student and faculty recruitment. Next summer, we'll have a Summer Institute 2-week-long professional development for faculty, and then open our doors to students in the fall. And then lastly, we want to make sure to highlight a few opportunities we see for collaboration. We really hope to develop strong collaborative relationships with the district and other city schools. A few things that we're thinking about are, one, school study tours. We'd love to work with district schools that leverage similar programming and or that are in close proximity to us to set up a recurring series of intervisitation tours focused on classroom best practices and engage in shared professional development opportunities. Second, what we're calling Buffalo Commons Share Days. We hope to hold an annual curriculum night in the fall and an open house at the end of the year that will highlight student work and teacher practice. These events will extend not only to Buffalo Commons students and families, but will also invite district leaders and principals to see the work of our teachers and students. And then lastly, education policy dialogues. These discussions would bring together educators from district, charter, and independent schools to engage in conversations about how to create and maintain school environments where every Buffalo student has the promise of an excellent education. We know that this work is promising work and it's beginning in our community already, and we look forward to advancing it. So that wraps up our presentation for you guys today, and I think that we'll kick it back over to you to answer any questions that you have for us.
Okay, thank you very much. At this point, I'm going to see who has raised their hand. And Larry Scott. So Larry, would you please ask your question at this time?
Let me unmute myself. Good afternoon, everyone. Larry Scott, member at large. I have, I think, 3 or 4 questions here for you as I look through your application. The first thing that I noticed is that it looks like Buffalo Commons has withdrawn their application 3 times, twice with State Ed and then 1 time with SUNY. And I was wondering if you could shed some light on the reasons for withdrawing those 3 times.
Sure, I can speak a little bit to that, and then Sherry just follow up as necessary. Member Scott, thanks for your question. I think the short answer is that each time that we have submitted applications to authorizers, we've gotten feedback from those authorizers about aspects of the program that could be improved or described in greater detail. And so with each subsequent iteration or with each withdrawal, we've withdrawn the application in order to make it better. So what's really exciting is that we feel like the application that we have submitted to SUNY in this round of this RFP is really strong and reflects all of what I would call the learning that we've done over those previous submissions.
My next question that I typically ask all charter schools or applicants, I work with students with disabilities, and they're a huge priority for me. And one question I had is, do you provide, it looks like you have co-teaching, consultant teacher, resource room, and related services. Will you provide any self-contained classrooms for students with severe disabilities?
Yeah, that's a really excellent question. I think, we won't know who the students are until they're enrolled. And so we've tried to make a plan that we think will address the vast majority of students that come into the school. To what extent we'll be able to offer a self-contained classroom is, I think, a little bit of an unknown right now. I imagine that we will at some point have students that apply that have an IEP that asks for a self-contained classroom, and we'll need to sort of cross that bridge when we come to it. But our plan outlines for the co-teaching in every classroom, along with, like you said, the opportunity for resource room services as well as related services. And so we imagine that we can meet the vast majority of student needs with those programming.
But as it stands right now, your plan does not provide a self-contained classroom. So if a student did apply and was accepted that needed a self-contained classroom, they would be denied access?
We would have to figure out what the right program at Buffalo Commons would be for that student. Yeah.
Okay. And if a student who had an IEP or was suspected of having a disability while they were attending your school and needed, say, a self-contained placement, perhaps a day program, a day treatment, what would be the course of action under those circumstances?
So, I mean, I think it's important to lift up that we'll have a close relationship with the Committee on Special Education. You know, I know that we'll work closely with the folks there to make sure that, you know, any evaluations or significant changes in programs are going through their folks as well. So I imagine it would be a team effort with the CSE to determine the right placement for a student like you're talking about that would require a day treatment setting or something like that.
So at that point, they would likely have to then leave your school to go to the appropriate setting.
There would be cases where that might be the case, yeah.
Okay. The next thing I noticed in your application, and we hear this a lot, that, you know, we're top heavy with directors and administrative staff. And when I looked at your application, it seemed quite heavy with directors and administrative staff. If I was seeing it correctly, it seemed like you, after the 5 years, you'd have 9 administrative directors and administrative staff for 300 students, which seems to be about 22% of your staff working with students. That's, to me, that's quite high from my experience in working in public schools, also quite high for my boys that attend Buffalo Public Schools, where the percentage of administrative staff are around 4% of staff. For example, in one of the schools I work at, and one of the schools where my kids go to school, where there's 900 students, the administrative staff range around 7 for those 900 students. So just wondering what the reason is for having so much commitment, so much invested in directors and administrative staff.
So I'd have to go back and look about the numbers that you're presenting. I'm not sure about that 22%. I'm not sure what all of who you're including in that number. But I guess let me answer this way, and by all means, you know, ask follow-ups if you feel like I'm not getting at your question. I think what we have really tried to make sure of is that students and families get a fantastic school from the very beginning. And so we definitely have made sure that there are folks that have clear lines of responsibility in leadership areas from the outset at Buffalo Commons to make sure that the product that we're delivering to students and families isn't something that is being sort of cobbled together as we go. As much as possible, we want that experience to be excellent in every facet of the school from the very beginning. In terms of the longer term question about the proportions, like I said, I'd have to go back and look and see who you're including in that, because 22 doesn't resonate for me, but I'd be happy to talk about it more.
And then just one more question. It looks like you are forming a relationship with Ellicott Development to be the developer and provider of the location of your school. As I'm sure you know, the leader or the owner of that company.
Sorry, Mr. Scott, let me just, I apologize to interrupt, but let me interrupt so that we don't go down a road that is unnecessary. I think you're referring to the portion of our application that offers like a workup for a facility in the facility section and uses like a blueprint from Ellicott.
Yes.
As an exemplar. So to be clear, that's just an exemplar of a conversation that we've had and what a build out for the school might look like. We are in no way associated with any particular developer or any particular site right now. We're in the site search phase of our facility work. So there is no relationship between Buffalo Commons and Ellicott Development or any particular property or developer.
Okay, I did read though that you have had conversations though with Ellicott Development and McGuire about potentially being the developer that you would work with.
Yeah, we have had conversations with a lot of folks about facilities. That's true.
But those were the only two that were listed in the application.
That's probably true. We've had conversations with other folks as well, but I trust you if you did a close reading of that section of the application, that's probably correct.
And I know it might sound a bit absurd that it has to be stated, but the leader of this company, Ellicott Development, has been removed from the school board. He was recently attending rallies with Confederate flags, and to see that potentially he could be the landlord of your school and receiving public funds. Wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely hear what you're saying there. I want to stress to the people assembled here that that's not a relationship that exists. So I don't want to, that's not a narrative that is like real for us right now. We're not in negotiations or anything like that with Ellicott Development. So I think what I will take from your question is a clear sense of how this community feels. You know, and we appreciate that. That's really valuable to us. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Hurd, I believe you have a few questions, and we're running over time, guys. So Terrence, what questions do you have this afternoon regarding Buffalo Commons?
Thank you, Larry, for the questions, and that was some of the things I wanted to touch on also about who your developer was, and your feelings about working with a person with this magnitude and that's supposed to supply education, you know, for our youth. I'm looking at your numbers, and you're saying it's supposed to be about 45% African American, 20% white, 21% Hispanic, and others and Asians. And I don't see how the coalition exists for a good education and working with people who has a very bad character in this community within this community. And I don't see how you guys will partner with someone, you know, with this type of credit and the credibility of Buffalo Commons. Is Buffalo Commons, are you guys affiliated with the Great Plains Restoration Council? Because I know they, go ahead.
Sorry, so to be clear, I think I hear you saying, echoing Member Scott, and I appreciate that feedback about the developer question. In terms of, are we affiliated with the Great Plains Restoration Corporation, the answer is no.
Okay, because I know they already took the name Buffalo Commons, so I was wondering if you guys were affiliated with them or not, or do you have a private LLC that goes along with it? I wasn't quite sure.
I think I am aware of that, but thank you, and we'll certainly have to work out any issues around naming if they arise.
Yeah, it will be some issues if they already assume that name and you want to come in under the name of Buffalo Commons. So that's something you should look into in your application and as far as the business also.
Appreciate that.
I do like some of the things that you guys posed. You talked about equality, restorative justice. You talked about outreach, building trust within the community and your teachers. You talked about even having the summer institute. Those are some of the things that I do like. But there's some things that you guys are tied to, which I'm not very strong about. Don't feel too confident about anyone, you know, supporting the education system here. You talked about you reached out to over 100 community members. Who were these community members? When was these meetings held? Because I haven't heard of them.
So again, we certainly don't have time to go through all 100 of them, and I wouldn't remember all of the names and dates, but I think you can check there's a section in the application, which I'm happy to provide you guys with a link to, although it certainly is public, that details all of the names and dates of our community meetings.
And you can supply us with that information?
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
And how are you guys are going to address the arts and music? That was in your application also, the need for it.
Yeah, so there's programming in for an arts teacher in the first year. It's a part-time role. And our vision for music and dance and other arts is to develop that with our community over the course of enlarging that arts position. So like a big question for us is will people want a small dose of lots of different things? Or will they want, as a community, to go deeper into certain arts? And so that's a question that we'll answer with our community over the first years of operation.
And where's your prospective location?
Yeah, so again, we're not tied to any particular developer or site. We've identified the Main Street, what we are calling the Main Street corridor, as a potential location that we would love to be in and think really aligns well to our mission of diversity. Because like I talked about, because there is such residential segregation in Buffalo across lines of difference, it's important to us that the school be located in a central place that can be accessed by folks from all of Buffalo's neighborhoods as much as possible.
So you're proposing a Main Street, somewhere central on Main Street as a location.
Yeah, of course, there's like wiggle room in there, right? Like it likely will not end up being right on Main Street. So, but in that vicinity, whether it's a little bit east or a little bit west of Main Street. But yeah, we're looking at properties from downtown all the way up to UB South along that corridor.
So you have looked at traffic studies also?
We have not, because we've not gotten into an actual site at this point. So we're still in the site search portion.
Okay. And so you can alleviate some of the transportation issues from the Buffalo schools by using public transportation or the rail. I'm not sure. You're saying that you want access for everyone. Is that something that you're looking into, or?
Yeah, so one of the things that certainly is a benefit of the Main Street corridor is the rail line that runs along it, public transportation that makes it easily accessible to folks. For sure, those are positives that we're including in our criteria.
How would that work with first graders and second graders and the third and fourth, fifth years,
Yeah,
the fifth graders?
I'm not sure that we have a.
So I don't see how you put that in your plans with the first, second, and third, fourth, and fifth graders would be utilizing that system.
Yeah, I'm not sure that wouldn't be something that I would ask them to do. I'm just noticing, I thought you were noticing, and I am too, that the Main Street corridor has access to public transit. That's all I'm saying.
We have a lot of throughways in the city of Buffalo, for transportation with buses. We never had an issue with that before. But utilizing that Main Street corridor, for this purpose, might also work against you also because of the traffic issues that comes along that we're having. We have a number of schools already on the Main Street corridor, which we have congestions and also incidents that happen over at our rapid transit sites.
So to be clear, for us, Main Street corridor is a term that we made up that loosely defines a area of the city that is centrally located.
Okay, and I have another question on page 14. I don't understand the budget, because you're saying that through year 2021 through 2025, that your total general budget would be the same operating cost each and every year, which you were receiving more students. So I didn't quite understand that.
Let me go to where you are. I'm not sure that you're talking about the presentation that we just made?
Yes, sir.
And I'm sorry, what are you?
Your total general budget, your operating budget, it remains the same for 5 years consecutive. And I was trying to figure out where you were just asking more the first year, and the fifth year it ended up being at that number, or how did you manage that?
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. Are you talking about the 950,900,000 number?
Yes.
So that number is the projected budget, was the projected budget for Buffalo Public Schools that we got from, I can provide you with the resource from which it came. It was a 4-year plan. And Sherry was alluding to this. We know that that number has shifted with all of the reality of COVID-19 and all of that. But that's a Buffalo Public Schools operating number. That's not a Buffalo Commons operating number.
So you're saying our operating number is the same for 50 kids to 300 kids?
No, so my understanding is, and I'd have to go back to the original resource, but that the operating budget for Buffalo Public that we used was up through a certain year, and we just continued that through the 5-year charter term. So I think, as Sherry said, we understand that that number is probably, there are numbers there that are going to change, but I think the big thing that we hoped folks took away from slide 14 was the projected impact when you look at Buffalo Commons as a percentage of the district's total budget. And you see that it rises over time. To your point, we take on more students, but it never rises to even 0.5% based on these numbers. And even if these numbers shifted somewhat, that projected impact would be well below 1%.
Okay, I get it. And Cheryl Davis, she seemed to know a lot about your program. Did she see your program in Brooklyn, or how she's endorsing the program?
Cherish? Are we talking about Cherish?
Cherish Davis, yes.
Yeah, so Cherish and I met a number of years ago when Cherish was also working in local daycare centers, and just really saw a similar vision for education. It really spoke to Cherish, and so she has stayed connected and now serves on the board of Buffalo Commons as well.
Serves on the board. Okay, thank you. Thank you again.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Brink. It's Lou Petrucci here. I just have a couple quick questions just for people who are watching and for clarity. With respect to transportation, so are you guys providing yellow bus transportation, or is it up for parents to get their children to school?
Yeah, we would like to provide yellow bus transportation.
All right, thank you. Is your board a volunteer or a paid board?
Volunteer.
Thank you. Now, Terrence had referenced part of this, but just to be clear, are you guys part of a chain or a group or a collaborative, or are you an independent charter school?
We are an independent charter school.
Thank you. One more question too, is that oftentimes many of our charters only use a fraction of the dollars that we give them for instruction or for the operation of the school themselves. They tend to run very large reserves. So one of the questions that I'm always concerned with is that with the dollars we give you, we want to make sure that they go into instruction or programming or teacher salaries. Many of our charters had reserves that were in excess of a full year of operational budget. Now, that's a really large reserve. And many of them had reasons they want to purchase a school or do major renovations, which I understand. But I want to make sure that the dollars are going into the classroom and into the students. I just was wondering, do you guys have a policy or procedure or philosophy? Have you had those discussions?
Yeah, we've definitely had those discussions, and by all means, Sherry, chime in if there are details that you can provide. This is another place that we're happy to send you, the financials section of the application, and you can really look closely at what the percentages are year over year. But in general, we want to make sure that we have an operating reserve that's healthy for any nonprofit organization, right? I think we have ballparked that at about 6 months of operating expenses. Honestly, the way that the budget works, we won't achieve that for a number of years. So, I think why I mentioned that is I think we share your commitment to spending public dollars in responsible ways that move the needle for kids. Our primary goal is to deliver a fantastic education for Buffalo students and families. And, I think our budget reflects that. But like I said, as far as like particular ratios, I'm happy to point you in the right direction of what ours are. But I can say with some confidence that our priorities are really on classroom, instruction, and resources for kids.
And last, thank you. I appreciate that. Last, I just have a general comment. While the sheet shows that your overall impact is a low percentage, we can't single you guys out individually. It's a cumulative effect of all the charter schools that we have in the district at this point. And cumulatively, our percentages are much higher than New York, much higher than what the state recommended or what the state policy prescribed when they first adopted charter school legislation. So even though New York City, I believe, is at 11% charter schools, we're at more than double that and counting. The state says they would cap 5% of a student population for charter schools, and we're at almost 5% of that presently. So just kind of to put everything in perspective, I realize that you guys have a small percentage with your proposed student numbers, but cumulatively, we have a very high percentage of charter schools in the city of Buffalo.
Lou,
Yes,
I'd like to ask a question.
yes, please, Madam President.
Thank you. Sorry that I did not catch your initial opening. My apologies for that. I have a couple of questions. Have you been approved by SUNY at this point?
No, we're in the middle of the process. So we have submitted a written application to them, and we've done a capacity interview with their Charter Schools Institute team.
So I did have a chance to go over. I want to know, where's your uniqueness? Charter schools are supposed to be unique. Help me understand why you are identified as unique, because from what I'm seeing, we've got about 3 more after you, and I'm going to ask them the same question as well. Because you currently are in Brooklyn, is that right?
No, I'm a parent and educator that's been here in Buffalo for the last 5 years. I think in a fun fact, I think I taught your grandson, Jaden, at Elmwood Village Charter School years ago.
Jaden did go to Elmwood Village, and he had a very good positive experience, and they are still doing a very good job. They make sure that they take in special ed children, and they have rooms exclusively for special ed children. So that you know that when you put that in your application, that you would expect a certain percentage of special ed children, not to have the rooms already identified so that parents can at least know that this is a welcoming environment, is not going to necessarily get you to the enrollment numbers that you want. You did, but my question, I'm asking, who are you working with at the SUNY, with SUNY? The charter school office, is that who you're working with?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right. And so to ask you about your diversity in staff, because I'm not sure what your directors as far as diversity is concerned, but typically what has happened in charter schools, or typically in schools in America, particularly in urban America, you have suburbanites educating inner city children. At this point, they're afraid to come into the inner city because they're afraid that they're going to catch COVID. They don't even want to come into the buildings that are empty at this point. So what my concern is always about diversity in staff. What our children see are a lot of people who are cleaning the buildings, working in the menial positions, but they're not seeing the educators, the people who are educating. They're still being educated by suburbanites, no fault of their own, but I'm just saying, we currently are having this issue in Buffalo, that we have a suburban population that we're being told that the teachers do not want to come into the city because they're afraid of catching COVID. So what are you doing as far as diversity and staffing, please? That you have some people that look like the 45% that you're advertising for.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I mean, first off, I would say, I don't know if the video catches it in the way that it ought to, but I'm a proud biracial father and educator, and so I think right off the bat, having the day-to-day operations of our school led by a person that identifies as a person of color is something that we really value and, you know, I take pride in. Now that's me, right? And I don't think that's without meaning. But we've also developed a really sort of systematic plan for how to recruit and retain a diverse group of educators, because I think you're exactly right. I mean, it's well known, the research that supports the idea that students need teachers that look like them, that improves outcomes for our students.
All students. It improves outcomes for all students.
Yeah, by our students, I just mean
all
Buffalo
students. Okay,
all
all right.
Buffalo students, for sure. When I think about like having a plan, that's certainly part of it. And like I've said on a couple other things, you know, I can get you the details of our plan. It's like got 6 points to it. And it's from soup to nuts, right? It starts with just how we meet prospective teachers, how we put job descriptions out into the world. It has to do with the relationships that we develop with teacher preparation organizations that are mission aligned for us, meaning that they also see value in a diverse teaching body. You know, it's everything that goes on our website. It's the way that we take stock of how we're doing with our teachers. And it's also, honestly, there's a part of it that's about how do we develop, you know, whether they're suburban or urban, or, you know, how do we develop white teachers, since we know that white teachers make up the vast majority of the teaching force nationally. How do we develop those folks to be the best teachers that they can be in a school like ours that is intentionally diverse? So it's a really comprehensive approach. It's something that we devote time, planning, and resources to. And I'm really proud of that. So I'm really glad you asked that question. And it's something that I hope we can hang our hat on when we talk to you guys.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions, Chair.
Thank you very much, President Cottman. Do we have any other questions before we close the hearing? Not hearing any, we'll close this. Thank you very much, Buffalo Commons, for your presentation.
Ebony had a question. Ebony?
Madam President, I'm sorry, Madam President, Member Petrucci, to the Buffalo Commons group, please email all of the items that were requested to your contact, Dr. Lorinda Chisholm, and then we will communicate that to the board. Okay. If you have questions about what any of the members asked you for, use your contact, Dr. Chisholm. She was scribing, taking notes, and that's how we will coordinate making sure that the board has the items that they requested from you. Okay,
Fantastic.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ebony.
Thank you,
All
guys.
right, thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Board President Cottman and Vice President Petrucci, we will probably have to push the work session start time back a little bit to give Ellington Prep the proper time for them to present and the proper time for board members to ask questions, okay?
No problem.
Thank you.
will, I've been texting back and forth with Ellington Prep until we're ready, and we'll wait for all the members of the other school to log off.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. We are here. We we were on the earlier meeting, and we took ourselves out, and once we took ourselves off, the technical difficulty.
Who is speaking? I'm sorry.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Chris Douglas. Okay, Dr. Hoover, are you ready?
I just texted him to let him know we were ready. The plan was for me to let him know when to join in before the team joined.
Oh, please forgive me. He sent me the thumbs up. So let me, please forgive me. Let me disconnect, and I'll wait for you to make that call.
I just texted him, so I think
you don't
are we okay? We're fine. I just sent him a message.
Connect. To disconnect.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ebony, you've got this one. Thank you.
Brooke, we can see your screen now. Thank you very much for you guys participating
Yes.
today. We appreciate it greatly.
Darren, that's a great touch, extra touch. I like that. Brooke Foster and Emma. That very good. That's a great touch.
Dr. Lorinda Chisholm set that up. One of her good friends, Danny Mafia, in Rochester is the instructor, and Dr. Chisholm actually had Danny present to one of her courses that she teaches at Medaille College also. So I thank Dr. Chisholm for adding that and requesting that. So this is something that I'm sure we can look to do more often in the future. So thank you very much, Dr. Chisholm.
And thank you for accommodating our students.
Would like to see it done during our board meetings, and I think that's a very good add.
What are their names?
Brooke Foster and Yana, you might have to pronounce your last name for me. I don't want to mess it up twice.
No problem. Yana Komichuk.
Thank you so much, young ladies.
Nice to meet you, Brooke and Ayana.
That's a great add.
Meet you too. Thank you for having us.
I always love these learning experiences. Just get excited.
No, my initial thought is that they came with the charter school, and I was like, that was a nice added touch to bring.
Yeah, mine too, Terrence. I had the same thought.
Yeah, but it was a district initiative.
We can't hear you, Ms. Cotman.
I thought Buffalo had done that. I just like they're really thinking out of the box, and that's the truth.
And it's Miss Chisholm.
Dr. Chisholm and Ebony put these meetings together, and they do a great job coordinating all the pieces and contacting all the individuals to make sure their presentations are submitted on time and attached to the meeting invites also. So thank you guys for that.
Welcome.
Excuse me.
Work too much.
Don't start. Lorinda, let us know when we're ready for the presentation, okay?
Yes.
Dr. Hoover.
I thought I saw Dr. Hoover in here.
Yes, I'm at the bottom left-hand corner.
Okay,
Dr.
that's where you
Hoover's
see
here.
yourself. Oh, we see you
Yes.
now, Dr. Hoover. How are you this afternoon?
I'm well, thank you.
Good.
Hi, Dr. Hoover. This is Christine Douglas. I'm on the line. I am waiting for Dr. Moss and Janet Bonds to connect, and they'll be on shortly.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll just ask again, if anyone is not speaking, if they can mute their lines, because we get a lot of feedback, and we want to make sure the board members hear every part of the presentation, and then you're able to hear every question the board members ask. So thank you very much for that.
Let me share somebody. No, it's not muted, but I'm gonna have to
Whoever just joined 308-7602, please mute. 308-7602, please mute. May I ask what we're waiting for now?
Yeah.
Okay, we're ready.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everybody. At this point, we are here for the public hearing for Ellington Prep. So at this point, I will turn it over to the presenters from Ellington Prep. Again, everyone that has questions, please raise your hand, unless it's for a technical issue that we need to address immediately, and then I will take the questions in the order that I received them. Thank you very much, and Ellington Prep, I'm sorry, it is your video platform.
Thank you. Good afternoon to the board members and guests. My name is Dr. Eddie L. Hoover, and I am one of the founding members of this concept school. This afternoon, the advanced team of the proposed Ellington Preparatory Academy Charter School would like to thank the board for the opportunity to present what we think is a wonderful occasion for us to partner with you to create a new school to help serve our reinvigorated and very enlightened city, which may now finally be experiencing a slight population growth, or certainly a stable population, and thus the need for an expanded education facility. As to our mission statement and vision, we sincerely believe that all students can receive, can we advance the slides? Who's advancing them?
Okay, let's advance the slide, please.
Go to the third slide, please.
We are not seeing a slide presentation. So does someone have a slide presentation to be presented? You would need to share your screen because we are not seeing one.
Okay, we are having technical difficulties. Where we are, our broadband is not strong enough. That's why we are not on visual. It took us out. We were in the last meeting, and when we took ourselves out, it just took us off completely.
Okay. Should we proceed? I guess we proceed without the
board. We did send a copy of our board presentation to the slide presentation to the board.
Correct. It's in our calendar invites. I will see if I can actually get one of our.
I can bring it up.
Can you bring it up, Dr. Chisholm?
Bring it up, Darren, if you'd like. I'll share my screen as they go along.
Please. Thank you very much for that.
I'll work on that now. Thank you.
Continue. You can continue, Dr. Hoover. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay, as to our mission statement and vision, we sincerely believe that all students can receive an excellent education using career and technology education, a work-based learning program in a rapidly changing technical society without having to sacrifice any pathways of success, because experience provides a relevant education, a little bit askew from the traditional curriculum that motivates students to attend school, during which time they become more in all aspects of the school activities and consequently improve their core academic skills. The key design element of the CTE-based learning programs are the many diverse CTE program clusters, and there are about 16 of these clusters included but not limited to law, education, and the traditional STEM programs.
Thank you, Dr. Hoover. So taking from our vision and mission with these specific 5 clusters of career and technical education, education preparation and training, law, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, we also have a work-based program. Now we're going to have Janet go over our grade levels and capacity, and that would be slide 5 if your slides are up, slides 5 and 6.
Ellington is going to house grades 9 through 12. The capacity of the school is going to be 400. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Can.
Okay, sorry.
Some feedback.
Ellington Prep is going to house grades 9 through 12. The capacity of the school is going to maximize the students at 400 students approximately. That's our goal is 400 students, and the grade level is going to be added each year as accepted this year, 2021. A grade level will be added each year all the way through 2024, which that will complete the 4-year term. And the goal is to add 100 students each year. Now, the reoccurring recruitment, we have various measures upon which we plan to do that, which include, we plan on recruiting in the fall of each year, and that recruitment will continue in various aspects throughout until the lottery. We're going to look at families of siblings after we get students in the schools. We're going to look at the families if they have younger students who will be coming into the school within the next 2-3 years. We plan on holding the families together. Also, we're going to recruit by feeder schools, advertising at feeder schools in the community. We will have billboard advertising, which will include flat and electronic billboarding. We're going to go to churches, have flyers made, and also advertise on radio and television. School data will be introduced by Ms. Douglas.
For our school data, I looked at the reoccurring recruitment as well. And what we want to do is not take from the Buffalo Public School District, which is high percentage of students who are at risk and failure, various reasons. What we wanted to do is look at the BPSD students who are leaving the district for private schools and for suburban schools and for other reasons. So in looking at this, the BPS students, especially Black or African American students, are opting for private and suburban education rather than the BPS and charter that's combined. There are 31,050 students in the BPS school currently enumerated. Each year, we lose students to private schools, as there are about 7,334 in the private school sector. The average tuition is $9,822 to 18, which becomes affordable and not affordable for many at times. The average acceptance rate is 89% to private high schools in the BPSD, and the minority enrollment is growing at 22% in the student body in a private high school. When we look at the statistics of the BPSD, there's a steady growth in student attrition from 31,200 to 32,165 students since 2012. And that is to say that charter schools have not taken traditionally students from the Buffalo Public School District. Students transfer to local and private schools at a much higher rate, and also looking at a population decline from in 2003 and 2004, the estimated based on that, the data is based on a total population decline in the Buffalo community as a whole entity and not specifically due to charters opening up in the city of Buffalo. By offering a value of education in our school, we add to minimize the flow of students to the suburbs and to private schools. We offer financial stability, maintaining students in the district for the BPSD in terms of keeping the value of those student bodies in the district, encouraging the students to stay in Buffalo, and we marginalize on the 394 students lost to the annual dropout rate. For retention rates, we're going to have Janet start that off. For the retention
Is it me, or can everybody hear, or is nobody hearing?
Can you hear me?
Now
Can you
we
hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Now we
Hello, can you hear us?
Student, yes. Okay, student retention. We're going to begin with economically disadvantaged students. And what we're looking at is limiting the absenteeism of students' rates and through support and programming, through limiting the tardiness rate, through communication with the parents and guardians. Also, with the work-based learning program and the career and tech program, we want this to be a solid central bond. So with affiliation with these two programs and the work sites, that will also eliminate the tardiness and absenteeism because everybody's working together on the same team. And also, we're going to offer programs that will support students that are homeless and foster care, and also students that are gang affiliated. Now, retention rates are going to increase for all students, and that's due to this work-based learning program, which is so desperately needed. We're going to have an on-site social worker. We're going to have mental health counseling, creative programming, and we're going to focus on that work-based learning program and the career and tech program. We're going to have bi-weekly guidance sessions along with meetings with parents, telephone calls, etc. Whatever it takes to make a student to be successful in this Ellington Prep school. Now, we're also going to have virtual learning. Virtual learning is new to all of us, and it's not going to go anywhere. As a matter of fact, I think it's going to be an experience that will be very vital in years to come. So virtual learning is going to be used when students are ill. If they're not too ill to come to school, they're going to get their work through virtually. Of course, in inclement weather, we can use the virtual learning. Obviously, during a pandemic, school power failure. There are times where things happen in schools that we would need to have school virtually. The day and time where schools are discontinued or snow days and children can't learn, those days are over. And if the student is suspended for any reason, of course, we can have that going on virtually as well. We have community partners too for student retention, and these partners are going to help us to work with our students. When it's the Buffalo Club of the National Association of Negro Business and Professional Women's Clubs, the Buffalo, New York Tool Library, the Congressional Black Caucus, the elected officials, the Parents Network, and the list goes on and on and on. Ms. Douglas?
To further talk about retention,
Ms. Douglas, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry, please forgive me. In terms of retention for our students with the economically disadvantaged, first seeking an enrollment of 74% with a retention rate of 92%, we look to work with the Tool Library and several different organizations that offer programs for our students, much just like Bill Gator offered years past, with a diversion to suspension so we can keep students and not send them back to the Buffalo Public School District. We look to work with these programs to teach students Kohlberg's theory of moral development, which circles back to restorative practices. However, in a more in-depth perspective, we also look to keep our students with disabilities with an enrollment of 11% and a retention rate of 88.1%, doing all that we can with the parent network of Buffalo, New York, so that we can understand and become equipped so we can aid and help and assist those students with disability and getting their needs met. We look to also keep our multilingual language learners, the MLLs and ELLs, with an enrollment of 16.8% and retention of 89.2% by offering, they have mobile kits and they have voice things that you can use where it translates many different languages on time. We have different people who are willing to, every teacher, work with those so that there is no way that we can't get to those students to speak English and communicate academic information immediately. For the finance data, Our finance data, projected financial data for the Buffalo Public School District, for our first year, we would take less than 0.21% of the budget, anticipated budget. And in looking at all 4 years, we would still take less than 0.85 of a percent. So that's less than 1% of the annual total budget of the Buffalo Public School District that we would look at in terms of financing the school. The rationale for that, over?
As a rationale, I was standing on Ms. Douglas's statements. We'll take less than 1%, the exact number is 0.85% of the BPSD budget. And we're a smaller school and will not impact your budget hardly at all. And national data shows that we consistently lose more than 300 students per year to drop out for an annual loss of almost $70 million. So we think that by regaining some of those dollars, we'll return an amount of revenue back to BPSP that will be significant.
Our student retention is going to be Janet and I looking at hello, can you hear me? We're looking at historical student data. Historically, charter schools have had little to no impact on the student attrition for the student populace of the BPSD. The exodus of Buffalo residents is what caused the drop in the student population and not the charter schools. According to student populace data provided by the BPSD, charter schools have little to no impact and have been holding steady at 31,000 plus annually for the past 17 years. On page 22, there's a chart, and the information was provided by NewYorkStateData.gov of the holding steady of those students. And Janet's going to finish this up.
All Buffalo Public School and charter schools have high rates of suspension according to the most recent data. And a lot of them exceeds the areas in New York State having more than 2,200 suspensions from September to November during the 2019-2020 school year. The measures of retention, we're going to use the tool library site, the virtual live learning with the regular schools, and prevention and intervention programs. Now, there have been some cases when some students are returned to Buffalo. We do not want to do that. However, we know that parents have school choice, and we cannot do anything about if a parent chooses to send their child to Buffalo Public Schools or any school. That is their choice. But we are not trying to sell a child to return to Buffalo. Also, the other scenario that I'm sure you already know is that sometimes parents can request not to have all of the information sent on an IEP. If the charter school or if our school cannot service that child needs to be where the child can be serviced. So that's only fair. That's only right, because we all want the right thing to happen so that this child can learn. No matter where the child goes to school, we all want the students to be able to learn and to be successful. So in conclusion.
Okay, again, the advanced team would like to thank you for your time and your privilege of the floor, and we would be happy to answer any questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Fellow board members, do we have any questions at this time for Ellington Prep? Sharon, President Kottman, followed by Board Member McCosey. President Belton Kottman, your questions, please.
Thank you, Vice President Petrucci. The name Ellington Prep. Name Ellington. Of that from?
Pardon? The name Ellington Prep came from Duke Ellington. He is a progenitor in the civil rights movement and many different facets of the African American experience, whether it be social, music and arts, and intellectually based. His son and daughter, April and Edward Ellington, were pivotal in making sure that their father's legacy is staying alive and that this type of civil action can be carried out through our youth through educational services.
So, help me understand. So is this an art-based program?
No, it is not. No, it is not. No, it is not. It's a CTE program based under the 16 clusters of the CTE. So under CTE, science, technology, engineering, arts, law, education programs, all those things that have 16 clusters that classify under CTE. Because that's too broad, we broke it down to career and technical education clusters, education preparation and training for future teachers, para-teachers, teachers aid, school administrators, science, technology, engineering, and arts, and math, and also a work-based learning program.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Mercosi, Jen, do you have some questions? Followed by Terrence Hurd.
Hello? We cannot hear your question.
I'm so sorry. The mute button gets me every time. So thank you, Vice President Petrucci. My question is around this work-based learning. What does that consist of? What is that? Is that digging into what you had mentioned, so the career and technical, the teacher's aid, or is this another facet? And if so, what does that entail?
Oh, the work-based learning program is a wonderful program. It does go into the law and the teacher's program, but it allows, there's a percentage, 54%, if I'm not mistaken, of the students who are dropping out because they have to work. And because they have to work and they start making money at 16, 17 years old, their ability to finish school becomes closer to zero. If we offer programs for them to go to school and, as well as report to a work site, they can make money and still achieve their diploma, it becomes a very great program for the both of them. They receive training from the different sites. They can take their, we're working with Homeland Security and the government, they can take their certificates online. They can move forward in any facet in terms of the medical field if they want to go and visit a hospital and do an internship there. And then we're working it out so that they can actually, because of the pandemic, that was put on hold, but they were going to be able to actually work in the hospital to see what it was like to become a professional in the medical field. So our work-based program is directly tied into our clusters under CTE.
So then my next question with that, considering what Buffalo is made up of and how many cultures and how many different, as you said, the multilingual programs, do you have the capacity at this time, pandemic or moving forward, with this work-based program to make sure that students of all, students have these services as they're going into this work-based program? Because I feel like a lot of those families, those are the students who are, trying to help support their families. So making sure that the diversity levels are in place is very important.
Absolutely. I've worked with we have talked with the International Institute for a myriad of things, even as simply understanding that parents, a lot of our foreign parents don't come to school, not out of parent participation, but because where they come from, they believe it's the teacher that's supposed to handle the child at school, and them sending the child to school is their way of saying that they honor education. So we plan on working with the Institute to make sure all of these scaffolds and the necessary things need to be in place so that they can be a vital part of our school population.
Every time I call it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. At this point, we have Board Member Terrence Hurd, followed by Dr. Kathy Evans-Brown. Board Member Hurd.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of questions. I'm listening to your program, and you state that you're going to achieve 92% retention. How you manage to keep it that high? I know you said it's a very robust program that is going to encounter CT programs and work-based programs, which would sound like a great initiative. But how are you going to keep the 92% retention for a 4-year period? And I'll let you go through that first.
Okay, thank you. In doing research and traveling around the country, looking at urban prep and other charter schools around the country that cater to demographics, just like Buffalo, New York, what we were able to find is that Buffalo, New York has been losing many of the African American students to private schools, to suburban schools, and charter schools. But the other numbers have been growing in the public school, Buffalo public schools, in terms of students from other places, in terms of our foreign students or MLLs and ELLs. When we target those students from not going to suburban and private schools and teaching them how they can capitalize on this program, and we want them, they will know this is a place they want to be. Being attentive to their cultural needs, being attentive to social emotional norms, and providing them with an environment that's conducive to their success. And looking at what has pushed them out of the system in the first place, we want to address that firsthand.
Okay. You just said that we were losing students to Buffalo, the charter school. Buffalo District was losing students to charter school. I'm sorry, I'm hearing dogs and the echo in the background. If you could please use your phones.
There are a lot of people out here on this line at this point. A lot of people, so unless we have the ability to, I'll try to mute them.
Can you please mute your phone?
It's not Dr. Huber, it's the other, one of the 19 other people that are out here.
Please mute your lines.
Who's the facilitator? Okay. Can Mike mute these phones?
Mute everyone but Terrence.
Mike, can you mute?
Pardon me, board. I can call it out right now. This is Ebony. So there is a 915 number, 915-2744. You're unmuted. 716-829-9437. You're unmuted. 994-376. You're unmuted. There's a
Ebony, I'm going to ask Mike Lucy to mute everyone right now. It seems that because many people, they call in on their cells, they have to mute on their cell because they're not able to mute through life size. So that's what they,
okay.
I think we're able to continue now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you stated that we wasn't losing, we were losing students to charter schools, but I understand how to read some page 21 on your PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, you are not losing students to charter schools. We're losing students to suburban. We're losing students to suburban and private schools, specifically the African-American demographic base.
Okay, but in the city of Buffalo right now, we have 19 charter schools that occupies over 9,000 children. And I know that's been accurate with more charter schools applying. We're soon we'll be operating out the red because of all of the money that's expired. I know you said you guys use a very low percentage of our budget, but we have over 9,000 kids right now that's out in charter. But on page 20 on your PowerPoint presentation, are you presenting this to the state education department? Because it said the exodus of Buffalo residents is what's caused the drop in the student population, not charter schools. And
That is correct.
But charter schools is one of our reasons for loss of population also, though.
Okay, so when we have a loss of populace for Buffalo, we're speaking in the hundreds of thousands of people, and that happened between 2003 and 2004. And that's when we went from over 42,000 students down to 30-something, 35,000. And then ever since then, for the past 17 years, even with every charter school that has been opened in the Buffalo public area, the BPSD has been strong enough to maintain over 31,000 students. So basically, what has been, and then doing the research, and these numbers come off from Buffalo, New York, which are uploaded to the New York State data website. These are not my numbers. These are New York numbers according to the Buffalo Public School District numbers. So the major drop in the populace of the city of Buffalo, and that's data that's documented, is what caused a huge drop in the populace that's attending school. You have no families, you have no children, you have no people. Now, due to us being a sanctuary city and also being a place where a lot of students come from other places and relatives from different parts of the state, it has made it a great contribution to keeping the numbers up in the schools. But looking at the charter school data, the private school data, and the suburban school data, we have a huge number of African-American children and other children, by that matter, who are going to private school and suburban schools and leaving the Buffalo Public School District.
Okay. Researching your information, and you also stated that that you talked to a lot of elected officials. What other elected officials have you spoken to about this program?
We've spoken with Senator Tim Kennedy. We've spoken with Crystal Peoples. We've spoken with all of those members. We've spoken with, oh God, I can't remember this gentleman's name. He's one of our representatives here.
And all of these individuals approve the basis for this charter school?
Yes.
And you have letters that say that?
I can request a letter from Senator Tim Kennedy's office as well as the UNCF.
If you could please forward us a copy of those letters, that would be very much appreciated.
Absolutely.
And how many community forums have you held here in the city of Buffalo?
We've held over 25 community forums. We've held up pop-up receptions. Our last five or six pop-up receptions were held at Je ne sais quoi on Hurdle. We've had pop-up receptions on Kissington. We invited the New York State Board of Regents to our pop-ups, and other residents of the city of Buffalo to whom the grade levels we will be serving during this time, the proposed time of opening.
Have you invited the Board of Education or any board members?
I did. I invited your president, Sharon Belton Cotman.
Good. Okay, there are other board members also that would like to have.
I did not attend, Mr. Hurd.
Okay. I mean, we would like to have a notification that you were doing pop-ups.
Well, during that time when we had them, after we had our last one, we ran into the pandemic, so that kind of shut things down from February on. But we have data and information that was sent to NICED for everything that was held.
Okay, I do ask at all meetings like this to if you can provide a copy of the community members that you have at your forums, so we can just take a look at those also. And how you plan on addressing the arts and music?
Well, our arts and music program, I think, Janet, you can speak to. Did you want to speak to our arts and music program? Are you on mute? Okay. Can you hear? Are you on mute? Can you hear?
I'm sorry, I was muted. Can I hear that question again about arts and music?
How do you plan on dressing the arts and music? It wasn't in your PowerPoint, your presentation.
Well, it was. We just said the art. We just said the art. But arts and music will be in the curriculum. We're going to have not just general music and not just welcome to music or the beginning programs. We plan to have theory. Most of the theory and those type of courses have been taken out of the school, and they're left with the basic music program. But we hope to incorporate the theory into the curriculum of Ellington Prep, as well as going into more depth with the arts program as well.
Okay, so that's going to be a 4-year curriculum. I'm not.
Well, if you're talking about the music program, you're talking about general music, theory 1, theory 2, and advanced theory. And of course, you have to have the backup with the chorus and the band class.
This is a very robust program, like you said. Just a couple more questions. Do you have a plan for childcare or teenage pregnancy? Because if you got young adults that's working, and also in CT programs, do you have anything to plan for childcare or pregnancy within your facility? Or?
Well, not in our facility, but speaking as a teen mom, I fully understand the line of questioning. I understand what encompasses. I had a Buffalo Public School educator, Josephine Robinson, who was my principal. And so I'm fully aware of teen pregnancy rates. But we also plan on working with social workers, social emotional learning, and also preventative care. And we also have someone who actually specializes in that particular area, Dr. Moss.
Part of working with the women and the young children is in the reproductive stages is to explain to them the consequences of pregnancy, and also looking at creative plans, looking into the community of Planned Parenthood, looking into Evergreen Health Services to assist with them regarding sexually transmitted infections. So there will be a plan with the social work department to actually help them with that. And part of my company, Positive Direction, will be working with the school with that situation.
Okay. And one last question. Where's your proposed location?
Our proposed location, we have 2 sites that are possible. One is on Olympic Avenue because of the need in terms of rebuilding the community. The other one is on Main Street, 3322 Main in the University District. They're very much in favor of having our school be a part of the University District. And the University District Business Association has been one of our biggest supporters for many years now for the proposed school.
Okay, Olympic Avenue, is that the former school that's located there?
Yes, it is. Yes,
and
it is.
Wasn't it sold yesterday in the Common Council? Would you guys just purchase it? Did you guys just purchase it yesterday during the Common Council meeting?
No, we did not.
I know the building was sold.
Purchased. Okay, it had been up for sale and it was questionable because of the realtor and the process it was going through, and it was the information on it was being kept confidential.
Okay, well, you might want to check into that because it was listed for sale yesterday as a buyer. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Again.
Thank you.
Okay.
At this point, we have Dr. Kathy Evans-Brown. I'm going to ask a few questions and then we'll conclude with Dr. Chisholm. Kathy, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I like the fact that do have a choice with opportunities for charter school as well as public, private, etc. Expanding on what Mr. Hurd mentioned about the exodus of Buffalo residents, our data show that in 2019-20, 746 students returned from charter schools to Buffalo schools for various reasons. Can you expand on how you would keep kids in your charter schools? I know you mentioned a combination of work forms. Can you expand on that, please?
Absolutely. We, first of all, do not want to send our kids back, but we're going to really focus on their social emotional learning. We're going to focus on community relations in terms of getting to know each parent first name basis. What can we do to help you? How can we make this work for you? And then what we plan on doing as well, we're working with a company. They follow our students from freshman year to senior year. We're actually given a scholarship, a preemptive scholarship, where those kids, they're going to follow them and get them early acceptance into college's junior year. We're going to take them to HBCUs. Several HBCUs have already offered our students early acceptance in terms of visiting. Johnson C. Smith is one of them in terms of visiting and getting our students acclimated to the collegiate setting. But we plan to offer them a future, and we want them to want to be there. We want mom and dad to understand how to fill out financial aid forms, not to be afraid to come into the building, not to be afraid to take ownership, because this is where your son, your daughter, your baby comes to school. We want you here. I'm a lifetime resident. I was raised in a Buffalo public school district. I was educated in the Buffalo school district. I went to an HBCU. I came back to Buffalo. This is my home. These residents mean something to me. I am a vested, and this board are vested members of this community where we want the best for our students. And we want to do everything we can to not just keep them, but through the Access VR program, follow them for 4 years out of school and give them an alumni association so they continue to feel connected. And so some of them become teachers and come back to our school. One thing, that connection that I wish I had from the Buffalo Public Schools was that connection. We went to host a reunion at my school, and it's now an apartment building. I want these students to come back and feel welcome. I want them to come back and feel vested. Sending them back to Buffalo won't do anything. We want to keep them.
Thank you for that. I think most of us here on this board, at least, are Buffalo alumni, and we sit here as board members vested in public education. So I just want you to know that we also believe in Buffalo Public Schools and have an investment as well. And we want the best for our children. But thank you for expanding on that comment that I mentioned. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
As a proud product of the Buffalo Public Schools, I have a few questions for you. Is your board a volunteer or paid board?
Volunteer.
Are you part of a chain of other charter schools? Or are you an independent charter?
Independent.
Thank you. One thing that we're always concerned about is the percentage of dollars that actually go into instruction and programs at the actual school. Have you had discussions? Do you have a policy that you're going to direct 90 or 95 or 100% of these dollars towards your instruction?
We have had a discussion. Part of that discussion, and I could say we are blessed to have a former IRS, I want to say agent, who was that takes care of our budget, and who we've had talked about what percentages are going to go where. And due to COVID, that was one of the last meetings that we had in terms of going over things specifically, because he has pre-existing health issues. But we plan on using that budgetary funding specifically for those allocations, and we also plan on raising money in terms of anything extra. But if you look on page, what number is that, please? Page 19, it specifically shows how much is allocated per student body and the rationale behind it.
Gotcha. Thank you. Part of the reason why we ask these questions is for the people in the audience as well, for the people who are going to watch and maybe not read. So we want to put on the record for all those that are participating in this platform to have the ability, just put it out there on the record. And the last thing is that while I agree about the actual student populations, so we have to remember that charter school students are public school students. And when we take both charter school students and Buffalo public school students, that number has been 40,000 pretty steadily. What we've seen, though, is the percentage that are in the Buffalo public schools and the percentage that go to charter schools change. So the percentage that have attended the Buffalo public schools keeps decreasing. The percentage that has attended charter schools has increased. And while yours is only a small percentage, cumulatively, we've watched the number grow to almost 25% at this point. So that is what the board's concerned. That is why we're asking that. So again, our overall population keeps going down. Those that are going, the 40,000 mark is pretty constant. It's been very, very steady. But again, the numbers within, that's what, that pie keeps being cut up into different size pieces. So I just wanted to clarify that. I'm pretty confident with those numbers as well. Exactly.
We want to work with you in terms of looking at this from, we actually want to get those students as well that are going to the private schools. Many of those students' parents can't afford those private schools. They get scholarships, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a big proponent, huge proponent of scholarships. But we want to capitalize on the students that are going to the private schools, whose parents are dead set on leaving the district. Maybe if you can give us a chance, a percentage of that, the capital would still stay with the city of Buffalo. And we also are looking at the dropout rate per cohort. It's over 394 students, and they have value to the district. We want to keep those, and even though those students are dropping out, their value is, and that's per cohort, that 394 as well. And we can keep that in the city of Buffalo, a portion of that, by working with the city of Buffalo, because those students have value.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. At this point, not having other questions from board members, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Chisholm. Dr. Chisholm, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Petrucci. I just have a couple of quick questions. I was looking at the slides into the presentation, and I know you discussed, for the lack of better terms, some of the at-risk students in terms of the CTE program and how you hope to retain some of the struggling learners. My question is, what will the school's approach be to, especially in a high school, supporting students who may be overaged and undercredited? And then my second question would be, knowing that there's a strong base with the career and technical education programming, what is your plan to ensure those students who wish to pursue higher education, those opportunities academically?
All those are excellent questions. When we receive students who are overage and undercredited, first we find out where the deficiencies are with the RTI immediately. We want to find out, where did you usually, goes back to 5th and 6th grade. So we bring them up, we look at 5th and 6th grade information. How did you do? How did you perform? So if they have failed twice, I believe now there's a moratorium on how many times you can hold a child back. If you have had problems, usually it comes more severely out of the 5th and 6th grade. We start immediately addressing their reading and comprehension and math skills automatically. And then bringing those skills up, finding out where the really deep deficiencies are and working on those. And in terms of the plan for students who, please forgive me, the second part of your question, if you, for students, even though it's a CTE program, when you look at data and research, the majority of the students who get into a CTE program, almost all go to college. And please forgive me, I'm looking through our application for our national data, but almost all of the students who go to these programs look at it and see, you know what, I think I want more. Instead of being a para teacher, let me become a full-fledged certified teacher. Instead of just having this, I can make so much more. So national data and national trends show that although these kids optimize on the CTE program, they find the value in a higher education and complete their collegiate studies.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we're talking about, you know, maintaining what the instructional program design would look like for all of your students.
Oh yes, all of the students will receive CTE and their basic academic courses. If I can give you an example, so I have a 9th grader. They have their 5 required courses: English 9, math, algebra, their science, their social studies, physical education. They select from 2 of the following: a credit law program or government, symphonic band, training and education, and art and health combined. So the curriculum is designed so that no matter who you are, you're going to have to take CTE and your academic core. And then I can send you a copy of the proposed curriculum at a later date.
We've also discussed that many of the students that have dropped out are so close to being able to graduate. And we were just talking about a few courses, a few credits, and for various reasons, they drop out. Sometimes they need to go to work. Sometimes it's just 1 or 2 courses that they just could not pass. And we're going to focus on those students as well, because they need to be able to function as citizens in our city and wherever they want to live as well.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board before we conclude the hearing?
Just
Yes,
have a few
Terrence.
more, just a comment. I just wanted to say, we at Ellington Prep, we want all the students to be successful. And we also know that one fit or one situation does not work for all students. We all know that. So by working together with Buffalo Public Schools, I think we'll have a very successful program for all of our students.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hurd?
Just quick questions. Earlier you stated that you want to get your student population from private schools. Okay. How do you,
can you repeat that?
You plan to get your student population from charter schools and not the Buffalo Public Schools. So how do you plan to achieve that?
Well, looking at the private school data, a lot of our programs like STEP and Upward Bound and other pre-collegiate programs, they offer scholarships to private schools. By connecting with those parents and different people throughout the community and on different levels who would ordinarily send their kids to a private school, we can offer what those private schools can offer. And the difference, the difference in asking why that private education and speaking with a lot of those parents, why they're choosing private, and many of the times it does become a cultural question. Sometimes it's the focus on they couldn't get into a particular program in the Buffalo Public Schools, and then it just becomes a question of a school choice. Well, their child did make the right choice, and they don't want their kid to go to this school, you know, so they're going to put them in private school. So that's a heavy target market for us as well, because that flux is going to Cardinal O'Hara and Sacred Heart, Holy Angels and Nichols and their Buffalo Seminary and Christian Central, and they're offering them scholarships from various sources, whether it be from program that they offer Nard and Buffalo Seminary, or the Bison program, which is, you know, well-rounded for all parts of Buffalo and Western New York private and Catholic schools.
You know, to build a program like that, it would take time. I couldn't imagine you know, having a 5-year plan to attract students like that or families like that who can afford to send their children to private institutes and for you to accumulate those students. So what I see
we have
is
been working on this for quite some time.
Right, but what I can see is students coming from the Buffalo system other than those allocated for the private system, because you're a new school. They wouldn't know about you at the beginning. I know you have probably have proposed another robust plan for putting literature out and promoting yourself, but those students will, I believe that they will originally come from the Buffalo public school system and not a private school system. Or even you might incorporate some from a charter program. But for the high school setting, parents are really, have their mindset, are predetermined where they want their child to go and attend school and what type of program they want to be in. And do you have an age cutoff?
Our age cutoff is basically, I believe, 21 and 22, depending on if they've been retained in the Buffalo public school system or the previous school system where they come from. So our recruitment is, again, and I'll share with you, we're not primarily targeting to take students away from the Buffalo public school. There's a private school here, there's 2 of them, that specifically have middle school, and they have a middle school STEM program. And the principal of that program said, hey, I want my kids to go into another STEM program, but there's not a high school that offers the type of things that we offer. And basically I said, well, I'm a product of the Buffalo Public Schools. Look at the best fit for your students and have them apply. And that was the answer that I gave her. But there are other private schools and middle schools that are not Buffalo Public Schools that have available student populace to pull from. And again, looking at the dropout data for Buffalo Public Schools, out of over almost 3,000, I'm enumerating it, close to 3,000, 2,000 some odd students, 394 are dropping out yearly. So we're looking at keeping those students from dropping out because those students have value, educationally wise and financial wise. So the district will not lose. We lose when those students drop out and don't come back at all. But it's more valuable when we work together and see, hey, you have an option. You don't have to not go to school. You have a school choice. And we have been recruiting and doing pop-up receptions heavily in the community, heavily with different organizations, different middle schools and private schools all over, and actually going to these middle schools and private schools and in suburban schools for that matter, and having very open, candid talks. How does this environment look for students of a different culture? Is it comfortable for them? What is the issue? The issue with one suburban school is that we don't mind, and this I am quoting exactly, we don't mind the students coming from the city, but their absentee rate is very high because of the way the buses run. But they were opening their doors to the BPS school students. So my thing is, those students that are out there, they are there. And I think their parents would rather have them in the city of Buffalo and comfortably riding transit to and from home a block or 2 away, rather than worrying about what time they have to get up in the morning and what time do they come home at night, and if they're actually going to be able to make all of their classes that day, in school, and having a very high absenteeism rate.
Okay, thank you again for your presentation. I'll let Mr. Petrucci close.
Not hearing any more questions from the board or from anyone, from our administrators. I'd just like to thank Allington Prep for their presentation. Thank you very much. And at this point, we'll close the hearing. We'll go into a 5-minute recess, and then we'll begin our work sessions for this evening.
Thank you very much, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.